The sound of a police officer's fist connecting with 76-year-old veteran Samuel Bailey's face echoed through Reverence Park. The old man's frail body crumpled against the bench where he'd been quietly holding a photo of fallen comrades. Blood trickled from his lip as gasps rippled through the crowd of stunned onlookers. The American flag overhead seemed to hang limp with shame as one of its most loyal defenders lay wounded by the very system he once fought to protect. "He was just sitting there," whispered a trembling witness, phone already recording. "Just an old man looking at pictures." How could they do this? In the quiet town of Havenbrook, where honor still meant something and respect was currency, a line had been crossed. Officer Derek Monroe stood over Sam, his young face flushed with misplaced authority, his badge catching the autumn sunlight. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. A decorated warrior who had faced enemy fire now bleeding from a blow delivered by his own country's shield. If you believe our veterans deserve respect, not violence, hit that like button right now. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. The fallen hero, the misguided officer, the horrified community. But this story isn't just about an assault. It's about what happened when an old soldier's son discovered his father bleeding on a park bench. It's about the thunder that follows when Marines move to protect their own. Before we continue, you should know about Samuel, Old Sam Bailey. In Havenbrook, his name carried weight. His weathered hands had built the community center. His quiet counsel had guided troubled youth. His stories of sacrifice overseas had taught generations what courage truly meant. The medals he never displayed had been earned in firefights, where he'd carried wounded comrades through gunfire. Sam wasn't just a veteran, he was the beating heart of a community that had forgotten how to properly thank him. Until today. Sam Bailey wasn't a man who boasted about his military decorations. The Bronze Star with Valor and Purple Heart remained tucked away in a cedar box at home. Yet everyone in Havenbrook knew of his courage under fire in Vietnam, where he'd saved his entire platoon during an ambush that claimed half his hearing and left shrapnel permanently embedded in his right leg. After service, he'd returned to build a life of quiet dignity, teaching history at the local high school for 30 years, coaching baseball, and serving on the town council. Reverence Park became Sam's sanctuary after his wife, Margaret, passed 5 years ago. Each afternoon, weather permitting, he'd make the slow walk to his oak-shaded bench overlooking the memorial pond. His routine never varied. 20 minutes staring at the water, 10 minutes examining old photographs, and 5 minutes of what he called checking in with the boys who didn't make it back. To locals, the sight of Sam on that bench was as constant as the seasons. On this particular autumn day, Officer Derek Monroe was 3 weeks into his first patrol assignment. Fresh from the academy with a spotless uniform and something to prove, Monroe had transferred from the city with dreams of bringing real policing to sleepy Havenbrook. A call about suspicious behavior in the park seemed like his chance to demonstrate vigilance. Through inexperienced eyes, Sam's methodical movements, reaching slowly into his jacket, muttering to himself, occasionally making sharp gestures toward the photographs, registered as potential warning signs. Monroe radioed for backup before approaching, hand already resting on his belt. Have you ever witnessed someone in authority completely misread a situation with devastating consequences? "Sir, I need you to show me what you've got in your hands, now." Monroe's voice cut through the peaceful afternoon, startling birds from nearby trees. Sam looked up, confusion clouding his weathered face. His hearing aid had been acting up all week. "I said, show me your hands." Monroe advanced, mistaking Sam's puzzled expression for defiance. Sam slowly raised the photograph of his fallen friends, not understanding the threat. "Son, I don't. That's not compliance." Monroe closed the distance, tension radiating from his rigid posture as onlookers began to gather, sensing trouble brewing in the most peaceful corner of Havenbrook. "I said compliance." Officer Monroe's words hung in the crisp autumn air for one heartbeat before his fist shot forward. The impact resonated like a thunderclap, knuckles against cheekbone, authority against dignity, youth against wisdom. Sam's glasses flew sideways, clattering across the wooden bench. His thin frame collapsed against the armrest, photographs scattering like fallen leaves. Blood splattered the memorial plaque beside the bench, The same plaque Sam had helped dedicate 30 years earlier. The metallic scent mingled with the park's earthy aroma as crimson droplets stained the collar of Sam's faded blue button-up. He hit him. He actually hit old Sam. A woman's voice broke through the stunned silence. Phones emerged from pockets like flowers after rain, cameras pointed toward the unfolding tragedy. A construction worker stepped forward, lunch cooler dropped, forgotten on the grass. "Hey, that's Sam Bailey. What the hell are you doing?" Others joined in, voices overlapping in a chorus of outrage. "He's a Vietnam vet. He sits here every day. Someone call the mayor. I'm recording everything." The crowd swelled, faces contorted with disbelief and mounting anger. An elderly woman who'd taught alongside Sam for decades sobbed openly. A teenage boy, one of Sam's former Little League players, rushed to retrieve the scattered photographs with trembling hands. Through it all, Sam remained silent, one hand pressed against his bleeding face, the other still clutching a single photograph that had survived the assault. When he finally spoke, his voice came soft but unwavering. "Son," he addressed Monroe, "I wore this country's uniform when men were spat on for doing so. I bled for your right to wear that badge. If you think striking an old man makes you powerful, you've misunderstood everything about service." The gathered citizens fell quiet, witnessing dignity in the face of humiliation. Monroe stepped back, the reality of his actions dawning in his widening eyes. His radio crackled with responses to his earlier call for backup, help that would arrive too late to prevent his career-ending mistake. Comment below if you've ever stood up for a veteran who was being disrespected. A retired postal worker helped Sam to a sitting position, offering a clean handkerchief for the blood. A doctor who'd been jogging pushed through the crowd to examine the injury. Through the growing commotion, nobody noticed a local shopkeeper slipping away. Phone pressed urgently to her ear. "Marcus, it's Ellen from the hardware store. Something terrible just happened to your father." 40 miles away at Camp Lejeune, Marine Staff Sergeant Marcus Bailey was reviewing training schedules when his phone vibrated. The room fell away as Ellen's words registered. His father, attacked, bleeding, by police. His voice turned to steel. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. And Ellen? I won't be coming alone." Staff Sergeant Marcus Bailey stood motionless, phone still pressed to his ear as Ellen's words echoed in his mind. At 34, Marcus carried his father's features. The same steady gaze, square jaw, and unwavering moral compass. 3 tours in Afghanistan had hardened his exterior, but never dulled the lessons his father had instilled. Protect the vulnerable, stand for what's right, and never abandon your brothers. "Ellen, I need details. Now." His voice remained controlled as he grabbed his keys and signaled to Lieutenant Rivera across the room. The facts came in fragments. Park bench, misunderstanding, officer's fist, blood, crowd forming, no ambulance yet. "Keep him there. I'm coming." Marcus ended the call, his mind already formulating a response plan with military precision. "Sir, my father's been assaulted by police in Havenbrook. Permission to—" "Take what you need," Lieutenant Rivera interrupted, understanding immediately. "We protect our own." Within minutes, Marcus had assembled 12 Marines from his unit, men and women who'd heard countless stories about old Sam Bailey over late-night deployments. A series of rapid calls activated a network forged in combat and cemented by loyalty. Marines from neighboring units, off-duty personnel, veterans working civilian jobs in the area, all responding to a simple message. "Sam Bailey down. Havenbrook Park. Roll out." The base parking lot transformed into a staging area. Personal vehicles lined up with military precision. Trucks, SUVs, motorcycles. No weapons, Marcus instructed clearly. This was about presence, not provocation. This was about showing that when you strike a veteran, you answer to a brotherhood. "We're defending dignity today," Marcus addressed the assembled force. "We show discipline. We show restraint. We show that 50 Marines can accomplish more with their presence than that officer did with his fist." The convoy departed Camp Lejeune like a steel river, 50 Marines in 15 vehicles, moving with purpose toward Havenbrook. Highway drivers pulled aside, sensing something momentous in their controlled urgency. Local police radios crackled with confused reports of military vehicles moving in formation toward town. The power of 50 Marines united by brotherhood and honor moving as one to defend an elder's dignity, created an energy that transcended their individual presence. These weren't just soldiers responding to a crisis, they were sons and daughters of America upholding a sacred covenant. Those who served would never stand alone. As they crossed the county line, Marcus's phone buzzed with updates. The crowd at the park was growing. News vans had arrived. The officer remained on scene, isolated by his superior. And Samuel Bailey, despite his injuries, had refused to leave his bench until justice acknowledged its failure. 5 minutes out, Marcus announced. Remember, we're not storming a beach. We're standing for respect. The first vehicle in the convoy rounded the corner to Reverence Park at precisely 3:47 p.m. Mayor Wilson, who had rushed to the scene after frantic calls from constituents, felt his breath catch as the procession of vehicles came into view. Not military transports as rumors suggested, but personal vehicles, each filled with Marines in various states of dress. Some wore full uniforms, others civilian clothes with military precision. All moved with unmistakable purpose. From the police barricade, Sergeant Phillips, Officer Monroe's supervisor, watched the approaching Marines with growing apprehension. Central, we have multiple military personnel arriving on scene. Request guidance. His hand instinctively moved toward his holster before he caught himself. These weren't protesters. These were United States Marines. For Sam, still seated on his bench surrounded by concerned citizens, the sight of the convoy brought a mixture of emotions. Pride in his son, concern for potential escalation, and profound gratitude that after all these years, the brotherhood remained unbroken. The vehicles parked with mechanical precision along the park's perimeter. No doors slammed, no voices raised. 50 Marines emerged and formed a line, their silence more commanding than shouts could ever be. The crowd parted instinctively, creating a corridor through which Staff Sergeant Marcus Bailey walked alone toward his father. Dad. The word carried across the hushed park as Marcus knelt before Sam, gently examining the bruise spreading across his father's cheekbone. After confirming Sam wasn't critically injured, Marcus stood and turned to face Officer Monroe and the assembled police. My name is Staff Sergeant Marcus Bailey, United States Marine Corps. That man you struck is Samuel Bailey, decorated combat veteran, who earned the Bronze Star with valor pulling 7 men to safety under enemy fire in Vietnam. His voice projected without shouting, trained to carry across battlefields and command attention. We are not here for violence. We are not here for revenge. We are here because when you wear a uniform, whether military or police, you accept responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The Marines began moving in practiced formation, creating a perfect circle around Sam's bench, not blocking the police view, but establishing a clear boundary of protection. Their faces remained impassive, but their message was unmistakable. To reach this veteran again, you would need to pass through a wall of his brothers and sisters in arms. Officer Monroe, Marcus continued, addressing the visibly shaken policeman directly, you failed today. You failed to recognize a veteran in peaceful reflection. You failed to show the restraint your badge demands. You failed to honor the very freedoms he fought to defend. A police captain stepped forward, hands raised in a conciliatory gesture. Staff Sergeant, we understand your concern, but we need to handle this through proper channels. Proper channels? Marcus cut in, his tone remaining measured. Like the proper channel of a fist to my father's face? No, sir. Today, we are the proper channel. Today, we stand as witnesses. Officer Monroe will face formal accountability, or this story, and these 50 Marines will remain here until justice acknowledges its mistake. News vans from 3 local stations had arrived, cameras capturing the extraordinary standoff. Phones throughout the crowd live-streamed the scene across social media platforms. Within minutes, Justice for Sam and Marines Stand trended across multiple platforms. The local story was rapidly becoming a national conversation about respect, service, and accountability. Throughout it all, Sam sat with quiet dignity at the center of the circle, his weathered hand now resting on his son's shoulder, the older warrior supported by the younger, a living bridge between generations of service. By sunset, what began as a local incident had exploded across national media. Major networks interrupted regular programming with aerial footage of the Marine Circle protecting Sam Bailey. Military forums filled with veterans planning solidarity gatherings in their own communities. Phone footage of the assault circulated widely, accompanied by Marcus's measured speech demanding accountability. The governor issued a statement by 7 p.m. What happened to Mr. Bailey represents a failure of training and judgment. I have directed the state police to conduct an independent investigation into this incident and the broader policies that allowed it to occur. At the Havenbrook Municipal Building, an emergency town council meeting convened with standing room only. Mayor Wilson addressed the packed chamber. Our community failed one of our most respected citizens today. This will not stand without consequence. The police chief, a 20-year veteran himself, looked visibly shaken as he approached the podium. Effective immediately, Officer Monroe has been placed on administrative leave pending full investigation. I have personally reviewed the video evidence and witness statements. I want to make it clear, what happened today violates everything our department stands for. The chief paused, removing his hat. I've spoken with Mr. Bailey and his son. I've offered my personal apology, but words aren't enough. Tomorrow, we're announcing new mandatory training protocols for all officers regarding interaction with veterans and elderly citizens. In the park, as darkness fell, volunteers arrived with food, chairs, and lighting. The Marine Circle remained unbroken, now joined by local veterans and community members. What began as a protest transformed into something resembling a vigil of respect. Officer Monroe, escorted from the scene hours earlier, sat alone in the station's interview room. His badge and service weapon surrendered, his career effectively over. The reality of his actions played on repeat in his mind as his union representative outlined the likely consequences: termination, possible criminal charges, and a permanent record that would follow him for life. Share this video if you believe that those who protect our veterans are the true patriots of our nation. Outside the police station, reporters gathered as the district attorney arrived for an unscheduled meeting. Her brief statement to the press set the tone for what would follow. The badge grants authority, not immunity. No one is above accountability, especially when that accountability is owed to those who served our nation. 3 weeks after the incident, Sam Bailey returned to his bench in Reverence Park. The bruising had faded, though occasional headaches remained, physical reminders of that autumn afternoon. He wasn't alone. 4 fellow Vietnam veterans flanked him, their presence a quiet statement of solidarity. Across the park, children played while parents watched, the community rhythm restored, but fundamentally changed. The healing isn't just about my face, Sam explained to a local reporter. It's about mending the trust between those who serve in different uniforms. That trust was being rebuilt through action, not merely words. The Havenbrook Police Department implemented comprehensive reforms under national scrutiny. Every officer now completed mandatory training modules developed with veteran input, covering recognition of PTSD behaviors, appropriate engagement with elderly citizens, and de-escalation techniques specific to former military personnel. Body cameras became mandatory, with footage reviewable by a newly formed civilian oversight committee that included 2 veterans. The department's handbook was rewritten to explicitly acknowledge the special considerations needed when interacting with former service members. Officer Monroe's official termination came with criminal charges of assault and civil rights violations. In an unexpected development, he requested a meeting with Sam, which took place under Marcus's watchful eye. "I failed you, sir," the former officer admitted, his voice breaking. "I failed everything that badge represents." Sam's response reflected the measured wisdom that had defined his life. "Young man, true service includes accepting consequences. Your journey forward begins with that understanding." Beyond policy changes, the incident catalyzed community action. The Bailey Veterans Initiative launched with unprecedented local support, creating a multifaceted program that included a 24-hour veteran response team ensuring no former service member faced crisis alone, free legal assistance for veterans navigating benefits or civil matters, monthly forums where police and veterans engaged in honest dialogue, a mentorship program pairing younger officers with military veterans. For Marcus Bailey, the incident transformed his career trajectory. His measured leadership during the crisis caught the attention of military leadership and veteran advocacy groups alike. While continuing his Marine service, he accepted speaking engagements addressing police academies nationwide on veteran engagement protocols. What happened to my father represents a failure that extends beyond one officer or one department, Marcus told a graduating class of police cadets in Chicago. It reflects our collective responsibility to recognize the continuing service of those who wore the uniform before you were born. When asked if the reforms went far enough, Marcus pointed to the broader change in public consciousness. The most important reform isn't written in any policy manual. It's the awakening of Americans to their responsibility toward those who served. My father doesn't sit alone on that bench anymore. That's the measure of real change. 1 year after the incident, Reverence Park hosted a different gathering. No protests, no police lines. Instead, a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Bailey Veterans Memorial Pavilion. Sam stood at the center, Marcus beside him, as hundreds of community members applauded. The structure would serve as both monument and meeting place, where veterans could find community and where police cadets would receive part of their training. The plaque read simply, "Honor is not merely remembered, it must be lived daily." What happened in Havenbrook became more than a viral moment or a policy change. It evolved into a national conversation about how societies treat those who sacrificed for their protection. Police departments across America adopted Bailey protocols. Veterans groups cited the incident when advocating for improved recognition and rights. All because one son refused to let his father stand alone. The measure of a nation, Marcus told the assembled crowd, isn't found in its military might or economic power. It's found in how it treats those who have already given everything they had to give. When we protect our veterans, we aren't just acknowledging the past, we're securing our future. Sam, now approaching his 78th birthday, smiled as neighborhood children explored the new pavilion. The future he'd fought for decades ago continued to unfold before him. Imperfect but striving, challenged but resilient. Sometimes, he reflected quietly to his son, respect must be defended as fiercely as freedom itself. In Havenbrook and beyond, that lesson would not be forgotten again. Subscribe to Story by Liam for more powerful stories of justice and respect for our veterans. Because when we honor their sacrifice, we honor America itself.